Cary Prejean is my guest today on the Getting the Deal Done podcast. I'm John Martinka, and welcome to all the listeners. Cary, it's great to have you here. You are a business advisor, coach. I love your website with creating a well-oiled machine with a three-step process, and as well as your 12 things to do to double profits.
Yeah,
So
thank you,
glad to
John.
have you.
Yes, sir. Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Why don't we start by just you telling us a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you are?
Okay. Way back when I first got out of school, I got out of school with an accounting degree, got my CPA. And what I found in working for smaller companies is the business owners really didn't know how to read their financial statements. So they didn't know what's relevant. I mean, they could read them, but it's mainly like a page of numbers. Like, what does this tell me? Um, so initially, this is going back into the 80s. It was kind of a mission of mine to help these business owners learn how to read their financial statements and what it meant. And, are you financially strong? Are you liquid? Are you profitable? And are you efficient? Those four things. That's what ratios generally look at. And then from there, it's like, okay, and given that what your financial statements are saying about your business, these are some moves you ought to do to improve it. And from there, it was a matter of, I guess, observing that business owners were great at finding possibilities and turning them into revenue. But beyond that, they were forced in when they first set that business up, they were forced into doing things they weren't trained on, they didn't know how to do. They found a way to, quote, make it work, but generally not the most effective or efficient way, like accounting, like shipping, like inventory management. That wasn't their forte. So out of that, it's like, okay, what processes can we put together to where the process will produce consistent results, and you can step back from that? Because what we need to get you back to doing is find those possibilities, turn them into revenue. That's your gift to the business. Um, yeah. So from there, it's kind of evolved over the years, and that's what I do now.
Okay. All right. So you've been at it quite a while.
Yeah.
Helped a lot of people. Okay. So I'm intrigued, as I said in the intro, your website talks about the well-oiled machine, the three-step process to get your small business to the next level. So let's talk about that three-step process. Tell us what it entails.
Right. So yeah, the three areas. Number one is actionable financial data. Most, again, helping business owners get educated on what the financial numbers they have say about their business. Number one, you want a good financial statement review every month with a lay interpretation of what your financial statements are saying about your business by showing some ratio analysis. This ratio says this about your business. This is industry standard. What it's saying is your business is financially strong or not strong enough, or whatever the word is. In addition to that, what to keep business owners engaged in the businesses on a like current basis is give them weekly dashboards, which show them the KPIs that are important to their managing their business. And it things like, where your sales month to date. Are you on track? Are you ahead of schedule? Are you behind? If your budget for sales is $1 million this month and it's middle of the month and you've only billed quarter of a million, there's a problem. So is it your sales department is just behind in billing? Is there some big project that's going to suddenly catch up billing towards the end of the month? Or your sales off? If your sales are off, what customers can you go to and make them some special deals? Like, I'll give you a discount if you buy whatever ahead of schedule. What flash sales can you do? What action can you take to fix the revenue problem now rather than waiting until the 20th of next month to find out, oh, well, sales were off at 30% last month? Also, what are your receivables aging, payables aging, inventory aging, your taxes being filed and paid? What's your cash projection look like over the next 8 to 10 weeks? It gives them some sense of comfort about the business the numbers are working well. The numbers are in our favor. Or like a dashboard on your car, when something's not working right, it's flashing, there's a problem. And you can address it in real time rather than finding out 4 weeks from now, oh, that was the problem, and now the results showing up here.
Yeah,
Second,
Carrie, I got to interrupt you and say that's great because I hear that and I think back quite a number of years, and I worked with a client and I worked in partnership with a CFO type. And he is a CFO, and he was doing things like that for the business while I worked on other things with the owner. And he put in one, management reports and the dashboard. You talk about sales. He did that, but he did it was a B2B, so he did sales pipeline. So they could look out and say, oh, this is February. We're really strong through March, and May is really strong, and June looks great, but April is slow. We need to go get jobs for April. The company had never done anything like that, so
Right.
they would have the
Feast and
sometimes
famine.
almost a sine wave.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very important stuff.
Yeah. When you can get act, and again, it's the whole thing. I want to manage by the numbers. Well, what does that mean? Most owners, manage by the checkbook and by what sales are, which is better than nothing, but it doesn't really, you're blind to a lot of what's going on. So yeah, it's designed to show you if your business operating well, if things going well financially, your key performance indicators. Second thing we do is, like I was saying before we started, most business owners are really good at seeing possibilities, turn them into revenue. So they start a business and it's just them, maybe an assistant at first, and then they grow the business. And what they're forced to do is deal with things they haven't been trained on, things they don't know about, things like accounting or inventory management or logistics or human resources or, whatever, banking. So they find a way to make it work, a lot of times not the most effective way. So one of the ways to get the business working to where they don't have to be in the business all the time, which is what happens after a while. They're working 80 to 100 hours a week. They can't take time off. They're frustrated. Why don't my employees get it? So it's like identify what is your biggest headache? You want to look at all your critical functions. What's your biggest headache? Okay, that whatever it is. Well, we're having problems with shipping. We can't seem to get it right. They're not picking the orders right. They're shipping to the wrong place, whatever. Okay, so what are the results you want to see for that critical process, shipping? What are the results? I don't want you to write the process. I want you to tell me what results you want to see. Now get the employees involved in shipping and packing and all that stuff. Get them to write a process that will produce those results. And before you institute it, test the process. Make sure that it will produce those results. Once it is, make sure everybody has a copy of it, including you, including all of them. They all know what they're supposed to do, what other people are supposed to do, the timing of it, et cetera. And then that becomes the process so you can step back from that. What's your next biggest headache? What's your next biggest headache? What's your next? And go through and systematize the entire business so that the business is run by processes rather than the boss stepping in all the time like, you're not doing it my way. Again, it's nothing against business owners that just, it's like be putting me into an engineering job. I don't know anything about engineering, and it would be ridiculous for me to try and act like I knew engineering when I absolutely don't know. But that's what business owners are stuck with is it's this whole trust thing. It's like, this is my baby. I started it. I own it. I've been developing it. How am I going to trust turning over the business to my employees who, from my perspective, are just here for a paycheck, right? So the process run, good example, fast food restaurant. How do you get a handful of teenagers to run a fast food restaurant? Because everything's documented. Better example, the deck of an aircraft carrier. I mean, they're launching and retrieving warplanes and all stuff, and decks going up and down, and refueling and rearming and all that kind of stuff. And you have mainly 18 to 22-year-olds running the whole show. How is that? I mean, look at most 18 to 22-year-olds, these days. They can't
All
they can't
days,
operate. They
all
can't
days.
they can't operate without a phone. But you have this military precision going on with the deck of an aircraft carrier. Why? Because they drill, they drill, they drill, they drill, they drill. They know what they do. They know what other people do, when, how, get out the way, the whole bit. It's very impressive to look at. So again, systematized business, for most businesses, at least the ones that I work with, they need one or two managers, sometimes three, depending on the size of the company. But they can manage the business by saying, just follow the process. Just follow the process. There's none of this. You're not doing it my way, like what the business owner typically does. And third is long-term strategic planning. How can we design your business into the future so that it's something that's going to benefit you to the max when you exit, either voluntarily or involuntarily? At some point, you will exit the business.
Yeah.
So how can you maximize the value for yourself by designing that business into the future rather than letting forces of the market, technology, competition, government regulations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, push your business somewhere down the road you may not probably won't be satisfied with. So how do we go about purposefully designing that business? And you do that with strategic planning. And you have quarterly meetings and you have short-term and intermediate term goals, longer term goals, and people who are assigned with being responsible for getting certain things accomplished. And you make it a regular business practice to strategically design your business into the future.
Okay. So I want to digress a little bit. I'm looking at your website and I love one of the testimonials. And if someone says, well, I got more than a fractional CFO, I got a person who lets me vent and listen and then correct my thoughts in a very clear manner.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh, I think anyone
Domenico
who's in the
Conti.
advisory world can relate to clients venting because they can't do it to their spouse. They can't do
Yeah.
it to their number two, three management people or lose them.
Yeah, it's one of my roles with clients is to be a sounding board. You
Yeah.
know, what business owners, what entrepreneurs are great at, they have all these possibilities. And it's like, okay, so you got 15, 20 possibilities out there. What are the best two? Because you can't chase all 15 or 20 at one time. You don't have the resources, the time, the money, the whatever. You will try and produce all these and probably accomplish none of them. Whereas if you focus it down to the two best, now you got something going. And that, they just need somebody to help channel their thoughts, channel their energy, give them some feedback. But again, you got to be a trusted advisor. If you're somebody there, they say you're just there for a paycheck, there's no conversation.
Yeah. You're right. I tell I tell clients, I tell prospective clients that I think half of my work is quasi therapy because I'm the one they can talk to. And
Yeah.
yeah. And I don't have the an agenda that others may have. So let's shift gears a little bit. Uh, and before we get to your 12 things, tell us what do you like to do when you're not helping businesses systematize and process?
Well, I have a couple of hobbies. I like cycling. I don't cycle as much as I used to, as much as I'd like to. But I also enjoy cooking, baking especially. I have a few recipes that people have offered me big money. Like, can you make that New York style cheesecake with strawberry sauce? Yeah, I'll pay you for it. And you don't have to pay me for it, but give me some time, I'll make you one. Um, and yeah, so those two things I really enjoy.
Cycling
Uh,
and cooking. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, the cycling clears your head and cooking the same thing. I cook and I'm not a baker other than bread. And my wife says something and say, well, yeah, well, you have to concentrate on cooking. You can't concentrate on your clients when
right.
you got all these ingredients going in. And actually it's the same, isn't it? Cooking's
Yeah,
the same. It's a process. The rest, if you don't follow your recipe, you don't get what you thought you would get.
you're going to get very inconsistent results, especially in baking.
Yeah. So, okay, that was a good little sidelight there. So let's talk about 12 things to double your profits. And it's in a year, right?
Yeah, well, again, I say within a year, it can be done in a year or less. But again, it's going to depend on the speed that the business uh, adopts or institutes these strategies, right? So, and again, I have a simulator which can show you if you take these 12 strategies, show me what your revenue is, show me what your gross profit, show me what your net profit is, percentages. And you can make as long as you have a 10% bottom line, if you improve these 12 strategies on average by 1.4%, you will double your profits. You won't double your revenue, but you'll double your profits. How is that possible? Well, the first two are obvious. You want to cut costs, you want to raise prices, especially if you haven't raised prices in a while, which a lot of businesses haven't. And what do I mean by cutting costs? I'm not talking about firing people necessarily. I'm talking about reviewing. When's the last time you shopped your business insurance? When's the last time you shopped your group benefits? When's the last time you shopped whatever services you use on a regular basis? When's the last time you negotiated with your suppliers in terms of better prices, especially the ones who you're spending big money with? What you'll find is, if you're spending $1 million a year with somebody, unless they're just some mega global corp, that $1 million doesn't mean anything. They're going to be willing to give you some concessions on pricing. And again, so let's just say cut your cost by just 2%. That's going to be a huge factor in terms of adding to that bottom line. Raising prices, I'm not talking about raising prices 50% overnight, you'll lose clients. But can you raise your prices 3%, 5%, probably, and not really lose anybody? And the clients that you do lose are probably the ones that are the price shopping. They don't really value your services or goods, and they're gonna always follow where's the cheapest price. You don't want them as a
Okay.
client anyway. Beyond that, there are things like what makes you different. In other words, whatever business you're in, what you don't want to be is one of the herd. You don't. There's nothing to differentiate yourself because when you're just part of the herd, anybody will do. So one of the things you want to get clear about is what is special about our business that makes it. When you look at that, that's the what makes us different. We seem to be the obvious choice in our field. And most business owners are, well, we're really good at what we do. Well, everybody says that. That's not going to differentiate you. What is it special? Maybe you don't have anything right now. What can you add to make your service or goods the one that stands out? It's kind of like looking at a tree line. The tree you notice is going to be the tallest one, the one that stands out. That's what you want to. You want to be the tallest tree on the tree line, something that's going to stand out in your market. That people say, oh yeah, that's obvious choice. Also, what are your compelling offers? Do you have any compelling offers? And I don't mean like we're going to give you 50% off a $100,000 item. I'm talking about what small items can you offer at a huge discount or free that somebody looking for what you offer is going to feel foolish not to take you up on. What you're trying to get is people engaged with your business. And let them start small. Then you can engage them in something a little bigger. And next thing you know, they're a lifelong customer. Beyond that, there's upsell and cross sell. If you've ever driven through McDonald's, you want to supersize that. You want an apple pie, that's upsell and cross sell. Do you have a downsell strategy? If somebody doesn't want your premium service or good, what can you offer them that's at a lower price, right? That'll help satisfy their needs. There's also digital marketing, lead generation, um, 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 referrals, joint ventures and alliances. A recent example, I have a client that is a chain of dry cleaners, and he's been looking for different revenues, and he's thinking about getting into the house cleaning business, the lawn service, all this different cleaning because we're all about cleaning. So I mentioned I had this construction client that did insurance claims, and part of the insurance claims, they never fooled with the cleaning of the clothes. Insurance companies would rather pay to clean the clothes that were, smoking whatever had smoke and water from the fire rather than pay for new clothes. So it turns out that's a really big business. I introduced these two clients. Well, now it's joint venture. The laundry gets the restoration work. The construction company gets a 10% of it. That stuff they never. It's like free money.
Yeah.
Um, but it's now it's kicked up to the point where the dry cleaner is like, okay, I need help getting financing together because I'm going to take one of my stores and make a second operations unit to handle just the restoration work. And again, so you wouldn't think dry cleaners, construction company, what's the synergy there? But you never know. So there's all kinds of opportunities out there, and maybe it's businesses that address your same clientele, but don't offer what you offer, right? Again, for this dry cleaner, it's like what seamstresses out there can you recommend that you can do some joint marketing with?
Yeah.
It
And
seems to,
can I add one to your list?
sure.
Pro bono work. So if
It's
you're,
it.
for
Go ahead.
us, it could be working with say a nonprofit. You don't do pro bono work for a for-profit, but for a nonprofit, you could do strategic planning for in there, with the understanding, I'll do this for free. Could you think of referring me, but definitely be a reference? But even a business, you mentioned landscaping. Landscaping company could say, there's a nonprofit in our neighborhood. We're going to do this for free for them and they're gonna spread the word about our business. So
Yeah.
that can
It,
work.
it gets your name out in the marketplace.
That's right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, they have well, in fact, this again, dry cleaning company uh, does an annual thing where they have people donate gowns, girls will donate their gowns, and they clean them up and they give them away to girls in lesser socioeconomic areas. They have a dress for prom,
Yeah.
right? And they also used to do this thing with you donate coats is coats for kids for wintertime. Anyway, so yeah, there's
Yeah.
a lot of things you can do with that.
So, Carrie, we are, we're getting near the end here, and I'm going to ask you two more questions. One is give us a little, give us one on the construction and dry cleaner, but what's a case study of a business that you worked with that, and what you did and what it turned out, case study, situation, intervention, results.
Right. The recommendation that you read off of Domenico Ponti, he's the founder of Pet Store Direct down in Southern Florida. When I first started working with them 3 years ago, right? And they were very clear in our first meeting by Zoom, we're the bottleneck. We just don't know how to get out of the way. So what I found out was they were very much in the business and not much on the business. The revenue that year, I think they did was 5.8. But one of the things I started to do is help them put in systems and processes that got them more on the business than in the business. And it's been a continual process. We're still, still refining everything. But they went from 5.8 million back in 2022 to 12.9 million in 2024. And right now they're on track to probably do 21 million this year.
Cool. Really good story. So, Carrie, it's obvious to me you've been in interviews and podcasts before. You know what you want to say, and it makes sense. It's to me, this was like a rapid fire. I'm gonna say I recently did a podcast with a banker, and we did myths or fact on all these things about business acquisition loans because there's things swirl around the community and you can't do this, no, you can't borrow for that, etc. This was the same. You were just boom, boom, boom. I love it. These ideas after ideas. So let's finish up with the question. As I said, you've obviously done these things before. And what is something that you don't get asked that you'd like to talk about?
You've already asked me actually.
Ah,
One thing I've never been asked is what do you do outside of, work?
okay.
Cycling and cooking. The thing I really love to talk about. In fact, there was one interview I did. We went over the recipe for a lemon icebox pie versus lemon meringue pie. But I don't want to do that here. But yeah, I can talk about recipes all day long.
Okay. So yeah, you've got a passion for helping businesses. You got a passion for cooking slash baking, and it gives us good balance in life.
Yeah. Well, the whole thing about the baking and the cooking and some of the things is I give a lot of it away,
Yeah.
right? And it's just getting the thanks and the gratitude of people that, you know, here's a whatever, and it's something you can't buy. A lot of
You're
stuff
right.
you can't buy. Anyway,
Yeah.
there's a great sense of giving back.
Okay. So what's the best way for people to get hold of you?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn, Cary Prejean. Also the websites that you talk about, strategicbusinessadvisors.org is one. The second one is strategicbusinessadvisors.us.
So either one
But
of those. Okay. And
yeah,
I
yeah,
noticed
you
there's,
can schedule a
yep,
free meeting with me, either one of those.
I see that. So thank you, Carrie. So again, this is the Getting the Deal Done podcast. Cary Prejean, a fractional CFO plus a whole lot more according to his clients. Thanks for being here, Carrie.
Yes, thank you, John. Appreciate it. Great conversation.